Hey everybody, Ron Harris here, MD, online editor. Got a good question via Instagram the other day from someone who had noticed in some of my throwback pictures that I put up on Instagram, Ron Harris Muscle. You should be following me. I don't know why you're not following me. Wanted to know, they said you had a pretty decent physique as a natural bodybuilder in your younger years. Can you give some advice for the young guys out there how to build their best physique naturally? So yeah, a lot of people don't realize, I talk about drugs and I've used drugs for years and years on and off now. But until I was 27, I trained from age 14 to 27, entirely drug-free, no GA, no nothing, no drugs. So when I say no drugs, I mean nothing. I think I started creatine when I was 25, but anyway, it's not a drug. So, and I competed in a good amount of natural shows as well. So I do know quite a bit about how to do it naturally. And I'm glad I had that perspective, that I did it. I'm very, very glad that I had those years training naturally and competing naturally. It gave me a better perspective for later on to compare results and methods and things like that. But I want to talk to the young guys out there. First of all, if you're thinking about doing drugs, I urge you all to really wait. Just wait, especially if you're really young. If you're a teenager, don't do drugs yet, guys. Really, this is the one time in your life, only once are you going to have this perfect storm of hormones inside your body that your body is producing in large amounts for free. Testosterone, growth hormone. That's why you have the pimples. That's why you have the raging sex drive. The growth hormone, that's why you got taller. And it's only like this when you're young. Obviously, as you get older, these hormone levels drop down, down, down. So the test levels you have naturally at age 18, 20, 22, very, very different from what they're going to be at 30, 35, 40, 45. They're going to be going down. That's just the way we're built, guys. We're organisms. We're meant to have a life cycle, and our reproductive prime years is when our hormones are at their peak. That's just the way it is. So in talking about how to make gains naturally, it's not very different from how to make gains on drugs. You just have to be more meticulous with certain things. And again, I urge you all to stay natural at least long enough to build a really good base of size and strength. Now, when I tell people that I built most of my size and strength naturally, a lot of people say, yeah, right, sure you did. But it is the truth. I never did react that well to steroids. I didn't put on a ton of size. To give you some perspective, if you look at the thumbnail, that was a show I did. That was the last tested show one of the last tested. It was 1995. It was the last show I did before I started using drugs, put it that way. So I was 181 pounds in those pictures, ripped. I was 5'8" at the time. I'm a little under 5'8" now. So I have some perspectives. 181 was my stage weight there. My best weight on drugs since then has always been somewhere between 200 and 210 pounds. So 20 to 30 pound difference, which that sounds very impressive until you realize what span of time we're talking here. 1995 was the last time I competed before I started using drugs, which was at the very beginning of 97. 97 was my first year on gear. So what does it boil down to? How do you build muscle? And first of all, I want to say that yes, you can build a lot of muscle naturally. You can't build as much muscle naturally as you can with drugs. Drugs are very, very effective. But I just see this defeatist attitude, this misconception out there among the young people of today that you can't build any amount of size and strength, adjust that down, without steroids. And that's just not true. For many, many years before there were steroids, we had big, strong people. How's that possible? They didn't have steroids. You can add a lot of size and strength. Size, I didn't put a whole lot of size on, and strength, I didn't put on that. I didn't get that much stronger because I was already very strong. One thing I never had in my head was that I needed steroids to be strong. I knew that they were necessary for that look, that really big, full, freaky, exaggerated look. You don't get that look without steroids, but I knew plenty of people that were drug-free that were very strong, and I was getting stronger and stronger, and I was stronger on a lot of things than the people on drugs were. And I sort of had this thing, I took pride in that, where I wanted to be stronger than the guys on drugs, just to prove a point to myself, I guess. So I never had it in my head that I can't get stronger without drugs, or if I want my squat to go from 365 to 405, I need drugs. That was never in my head. For some reason, that was never a consideration. So what does it come down to? You just need to be consistent. It's consistent hard training, consistent good eating, and consistent recovery, rest and recovery. You put those three sides of the triangle together, you're going to put on a good amount of size. You're going to get much stronger. So consistency is the key. First of all, training, you have to be training on a regular basis, which sounds ridiculous. Like, well, why wouldn't I? But there are plenty of people out there who are not consistent. They don't train on a regular basis. They'll train for a few months and then they'll get bored or whatever, some excuse, something. They'll say, well, my work got busy, whatever, and they'll quit training for a month or two or three or whatever. Then they come back. So they've taken several steps forward and several steps back. They've lost a lot of the ground that they gained. So a big part of anybody putting on muscle is just consistent training. It's little tiny bricks. It's like putting a penny in a bank every day. Eventually you're going to have a good amount of money. Well, maybe not a penny every day. That's not much money. But I think you get my point. It's getting stronger and working within a rep range that's going to stimulate muscle growth. So just getting stronger necessarily isn't going to help you put on a lot of size. We all know people that are super strong and they train a lot of singles, doubles, triples. They train like power lifters. So they get very, very strong, which is more connective tissues and the nervous system. And these are the people that you see in the gym doing things that just don't make sense. Like you see a 160-pound guy that doesn't look like much, but he can deadlift 500 pounds, 600 pounds, or he can bench press 400 pounds. You're like, wow, how does he do that? It's because he trains specifically for strength. Then you see bodybuilders that are twice his size that can't use the same weights. So you go, the steroids must be all fake muscle. So no, it's because they didn't train for strength. They train specifically for size. So training for size, you need time under tension. You need the muscle to be under tension, stressed during your sets. And it takes a certain amount of reps. It has to be under tension a certain amount of time. It's something like a minute. There have been studies that have proven, but we've worked it out. So it's somewhere around 10, 12 reps for the upper body. If you do 10 to 12 reps at a normal speed, that's about the right amount of tension on the muscle. And you got a heavy enough load. It's a good mix of both enough weight to stress the muscle and enough time for the muscle to be under stress to get that growth response. Lower body does seem to work differently, does respond to higher reps, but I also believe you're better off doing a mix with the legs. My legs, I would do sets as low as 6 to 8. I would do a lot of sets in the 10 to 15 range. I would do a lot of sets 20 to 25 rep range. I mixed them all up in the same workout many, many times. And I do think that's an effective way to do it, a very effective way. You could also periodize where 1 week you do 1 rep range, next week you do another rep range. You can do it any way you want. Personally, I always prefer doing the different rep ranges within the same workout. So you also want to pick mostly basic exercises, especially if you're young and you're still trying to put on that real base of size and strength. You don't want to be on a lot of cables and machines and things like that. This is the time, especially while your joints and your connective tissues are healthy and you don't have things like chronic inflammation, you don't have arthritis. This is when you should be doing your squats, your deadlifts, your bench presses, military press, barbell row, T-bar row, chin-ups, weighted chin-ups if you can do weight, dips, weighted dips, skull crushers, barbell curls. These are the very, very basic essentials that millions and millions of people for decades and decades have used to put on muscle. They work extremely well. They will work for you. A lot of people will ask me, well, I don't want to squat. What can I do? And I say, well, why don't you want to squat? Did you have an injury? Is there a reason you can't squat? 9 times out of 10, they don't have a specific injury. There's no limitation. They just don't want to squat because squats are very hard. Same with deadlifts, same with bench presses. And you can use dumbbells for bench presses. I actually got a lot more out of dumbbells over the years than I did barbell for chest. But the only reason to not do any of these basic movements that I just talked about is if you have some specific injury limitation that prevents you. If you can do those exercises, you should do those exercises. They're absolutely the most effective ones. They worked for so many people over the years. That's not to say you can't throw in some isolation stuff. You can do some lateral raises for your shoulders. You can do some cable rows, cable pull downs occasionally. Of course, some leg extensions, leg curls for legs are very valuable. But you should be doing stiff leg deadlifts for your legs, squats, front squats, calves, of course. You want to do some calves. Keep your routines basic. I don't advocate full body workouts. I think that's too much in one workout. But I think especially if you're young, push-pull legs seems to work very, very well. That's where you do chest, shoulders, triceps one day. Next day you can do back and biceps and rear delts, traps. Then you can take a day off or keep going and do legs. And you put in rest days as needed with push-pull legs. You can just run it straight through. If you're somebody who recovers very, very well, and we'll get into that in a minute, you can just run straight through until you feel like you need a rest day. And your body it will give you indications that it needs a break. But if it doesn't need a break, keep going, especially when you're young, because you're not going to have this resiliency. You're not going to have this recovery ability forever. It goes along with the hormonal situation. When you're young, you can just take more of a workload. That's why most elite athletes are young. Their bodies are built for endurance. They can recover faster. That's just the way it is. We're human beings. We age out. So training, basic exercises, the correct rep ranges. You want to work to failure. Don't do too many sets. I don't believe you need to do more than, say, 4 work sets of any exercise. How many exercises? For smaller muscle groups like bis and tris, 3, 4 at the most. I think biceps, you don't need more than 3 exercises. Triceps, 3 or 4. Chest, maybe 4. Back, 4 or 5, maybe 6. Legs, same thing. Shoulders, 4 or 5 exercises at the most. Did I cover everything? I think so. So that's the training. You want to train consistently. Take time off when you need it, when your body's telling you it's breaking down. You're starting to feel run down. You're losing motivation. You're having trouble sleeping. Those are signs that you're overtraining. Now, a lot of overtraining can be mitigated by proper nutrition and rest. If you're eating very well, very consistently, a lot of good food every day, and you're getting plenty of sleep, you can probably recover. You're going to recover better, and you can probably train longer and more often than someone that doesn't do these things, because their body doesn't have the tool. It doesn't have the fuel. It's not being given the building blocks to repair the muscle and recover, and you're not sleeping enough. So that's the next thing. So let me talk about nutrition for a second. If you're training naturally, you definitely want to be careful not to get too fat, because it's a very easy trap to fall into. I did it for myself for many years. I was technically probably obese. I was 5'8", and I used to get up to 230 pounds. It was not a pretty 230. It was a very sloppy 230. I had the beginnings of a double chin. I'm pretty sure I had dimples on my ass. It was kind of hard to see back there. Little jelly rolls around my middle. I wanted to just be big and strong. And in my head, I always said, well, I'm not that fat. But then I would see pictures and go, oh, geez, I was wrong. I actually was pretty fat. You want to eat enough to stimulate gains, to fuel the workouts and to fuel the recovery. So you're going to have to find that happy medium where you're eating enough to gain, but you're not eating so much that you're going to start getting fat. You want to eat clean for the most part, unless you're one of those people that has a super fast metabolism. If you're one of those people who's very, very thin and you eat and you can't gain any weight, somebody like that might need some junk food, some fast food a few times a week, just to put the calories in. Most of you aren't in that situation. Most of you should be eating clean. You can have your occasional treats here and there. I'm just talking about building. I'm not talking about contest dieting or anything like that. I'm just talking about gaining. So every day you should be eating things like eggs, fish, chicken, beef, turkey, protein powders, shakes. You want to be eating more food than shakes and bars, for sure. The more real food you can eat, the better. Personally, I have 5 meals a day and 1 shake. And then I'll have a few sips of a shake in the middle of the night. But it's typically 5 solid meals and 1 shake. If you can do that, guys, if you can get at least 4 solid meals in a day, and then if you're only doing 4 meals, I would have 2 shakes. But I'd rather see you doing 5 meals, 5 solid meals. So those are the protein sources I talked about. Carbs are simple: potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, cream of wheat, oatmeal. You can throw some fruit in there. I encourage you to throw some fruit. Things are, actually have some nutrients in them and are going to be beneficial to you. Apples are really good. Berries have a lot of extra nutrients and antioxidants in them. Cherries are actually really good for anti-inflammatory, for your tendons and things like that. And you can have a little bit of things like pineapple is really good for your digestion. So have a really balanced diet. I don't believe in a really low carb diet or a low fat diet. You should be getting healthy fats from things like whole eggs, raw nuts, fish like salmon, You can throw in things like olive oil, almond butter oil, macadamia nut oil, some natural peanut butter. But you want to have a really balanced diet, and you want to have a steady influx of food every day. This does mean you're going to have to meal prep. And a lot of people don't want to meal prep. I tell them this is what you need to eat. And they say, well, how am I supposed to, where am I supposed to get all this food? I said, you got to cook it, and you got to have it ready for yourself. If you meal prep and you cook large amounts of food at once, then you have your food all set for the week. You can freeze a bunch of it. Like one thing I do is I get the big packet of, just as an example, big packet of the chicken thighs from Costco. It's like 4 or 5 pounds. Maybe it's like 5 or 6 pounds. I don't know. It's a big, you've seen it. It's chicken thighs, boneless and skinless. And there's not a big difference nutritionally between the thighs and the breast. The breasts are a little leaner. Chicken thighs are a lot cheaper. So I take all that. I throw in some teriyaki sauce. I think it's called Yoshida. I get that at Costco in a big jug. I throw all that into a slow cooker. If you've seen these things. The slow cooker things, you put the food in, whatever, you turn it on. It takes like 10 hours. You can leave your house all day. Once it's done cooking, it'll just stay warm until you're home. And then I put it into glass containers and freeze most of it. Keep some in the refrigerator for the next couple days. And then as I need it, I'll take more of the glass containers out of my freezer and thaw those out to eat. That's just one example. Meal prep, it's not that hard. Once you get into routine and once you figure out these are the foods I need to buy, these are the foods I'm going to cook in mass quantities, you just take a day or two out of every week. These are the days I'm going to cook my food for the week, or whenever you run out of food. So eating consistently, training consistently, and of course the last thing is rest. You do need to rest. I'll talk about supplements last. So you can't do all these things and then not get enough sleep. Or, if you're sleeping but you're still running around doing a lot of extra physical activity, I don't want to discourage you from playing sports that you like or things like that, but it's calories in versus calories out. You do need to be able to rest and recover. So the main thing is sleep, though. Don't stay out all night. Don't stay up all night watching TV or Netflix or playing video games. I know the video games are great, but you have to consider my body needs to recover. If you're doing this, all these hard workouts, you're eating all this good food, you want to see the gains. You want to see the fruits of your labors. So if you're doing all that, but then you're only sleeping 4 hours a night or something, you just canceled out all that hard work and all that good food, because you're not going to be able to recover, and you're not going to be able to grow the muscle that you should have from the workouts and from those meals. You still need to sleep. So it's training, it's eating, and it's resting. It's very simple. It's a simple formula. It's just most people don't do it. Or they don't do it consistently. They might eat well for a week or two, or a month or 2 or 3 months. Then they fall off the wagon and they start not eating as much, or just grabbing some snack food like chips or whatever when they're hungry, because they're too lazy, that they don't want to cook anything. I understand cooking's work, but you have to do it. You have to commit to it. It's dedication. It really is dedication. So last thing I'll talk about is supplements. You don't need a ton of supplements. Supplements are something you should only look into if your nutrition is on point. If you're eating all the good meals you're supposed to be eating, now you can look into some supplements. Absolutely. Creatine monohydrate has been proven. Many studies back up that it works. Volumizes the muscle cells, increases maximum power of the muscles, the endurance of the muscles. It's been proven in so many studies. So creatine monohydrate absolutely works. Pre-workouts, sure. I mean, if you need them, and most of us do. I'm a pre-workout junkie. They give you that mental clarity, the focus, the energy, especially if you're someone who works all day and you've been up since 5 in the morning and you don't get to the gym until 5 or 6 p.m. Yeah, you might want to have at least a strong cup of coffee or a pre-workout before training. I also believe in post-workout shakes, either essential amino acids or hydrolyzed whey protein. What I call what's the type of whey protein? I'm having a mind gap here. Anyway, whey protein or essential amino acids plus a simple carb source. There are a lot of cyclic dextrin type of products out there that are fast, easy carbs you can mix into a shake, or you can have something as simple as some kids cereal like Cocoa Puffs, or I've been having Skittles. You could have gummy worms. It's anything that's going to get in your system really fast. Fruit apparently is not that great, but sugar in the form of candy, sugary cereal, or like I said, any of these carb supplements that are on the market now, they all work very well. Get that in immediately when you're done training. Helps put everything right back in because you just depleted all your amino acids from the muscles, the glycogen. So you're putting back what was depleted. Then about an hour later, if your appetite's back, if not, wait a little longer than that. That's when you can have your chicken and rice. Chicken and rice is my post-workout meal almost all the time. I think it's perfect. White rice. It's jasmine rice, I should say, but it's white rice. Brown rice, it's very rubbery. It's hard to chew. I'm not a fan. That's pretty much it, guys. It's for supplements. You can look into things, other type of supplements, but always put most of your money into food. There's no point in spending a lot of money on supplements and taking a lot of supplements if you're not eating right. Supplement means they're supposed to add to. They're supposed to give you a better result on top of something else. They don't take the place of food. They're never going to take the place of food or training intensity. A pre-workout can give you a little bit of a boost, but it's not going to make you train harder. That's come from you inside. You have to have that drive. And although I'm not about becoming stronger in like 1 or 2 reps, I do believe you guys should try to be progressive with your training, especially as you're young. When you're young, you should be getting stronger and stronger and stronger consistently. So say you've only been training for a couple months, you're squatting 95 pounds, the bar plus 25 for 10 reps. That's all you can do. As time goes by, you should be doing a 10 on top of that. Then go to a 45, put a 10 on top of that eventually after a few weeks. Eventually you should be doing 245s, 225 pounds. Eventually you should be doing 315. It's going to take time, but always try to get stronger in those rep ranges. 10 to 12 reps for the upper body and the mix of reps I talked about for the lower body. If you do these things, if you do them consistently, train hard in the proper rep ranges with the good basic exercises, eat plenty of good food, get plenty of rest, you will grow without steroids. You will get much bigger and much stronger than you started out at. Eventually, at some point, and it's going to take years, it will take you years to hit your maximum natural potential. A lot of people pull the trigger on steroids too quick, prematurely. If someone's been training a year, they say, well, that's it. I've been training a year. This is probably as big as I'm going to get naturally, as strong as I'm going to get. No, most people I know, it takes you at least 5 years, at least. I was making gains as a natural probably for 10 years, at least 10 years. At that point, and even after that, I still think I was making gains. They were very, very slow and small, but I was still gaining. I probably could have kept going that way for another 10 years. The gains would have been tiny. They would have been almost imperceptible, but I think would have been able to keep going and putting on muscle and getting a little stronger bit by bit by bit. So it's going to take you a while, and it's up to you. I can't tell you when you're going to be ready to take steroids. And maybe you never will. You're better off. You really are. You're so much better off never starting steroids, just because once you start them, you're never going to stop. Nobody does one cycle, guys. Trust me. I've known so many guys who started steroids and said, I'm just going to try it once. I want to see what they do for me. I never met one person who after that said, okay, that was nice. I'm never using them again. Unless they had some crazy health problem, which is very rare from a first cycle. But most people, once they saw the look, that the muscles had a different volume, they looked fuller and they were able to put on some weight and they got a little stronger, they wanted more of that. I did. And so I kept going, and here I am, age 50, 51 in September. I'm still doing that. So guys, I hope that's been useful, because I do want you guys to know, especially you young people out there, you can make gains without steroids. You can make a lot of gains without steroids for a very long time. If at some point you choose to go the steroid route, that's going to be your decision. But I do want you to know that in the meantime, don't have that misconception that you can't get bigger and stronger without steroids. You absolutely can. You can make a lot of gains from your starting point. You should be able to change enough from your starting point where you look like a different person. Yeah, I'm dead serious about that. Like I said, when I started lifting, I was 95 pounds, 4'11". Eventually I was 5'8", 230 was my off-season weight. Yeah, it was sloppy. But competing at a shredded over 180 at 5'8", completely drug-free, no insulin, no growth hormone, no test, nothing. had never even thought of using steroids. I thought about it, but I was committed to staying natural for as long as I could. And, you know, maybe I should have stayed natural. That's debatable. That's an argument for another day. But guys, I hope this has been helpful to you. I appreciate you guys watching, and give me some questions in the comments below for future Ask Rons that you'd like me to answer. Just remember, I am not a drug expert. Dr. T, George Tuliatos, who I do a show with on muscular development, he is. Put the comments under his videos that we do, Ask Dr. Testosterone, and he will answer those for you. I'm here for everything else. And that's it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the bell so you're notified when we get new videos. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.